Let me tell you the story of how my wife and I almost got evicted from our own home by a woman who managed to commit federal crimes before breakfast without ever realizing she was picking a fight with the wrong family. The first time I held that fake eviction notice in my hands, I'll admit, my jaw actually dropped. Not because of the threat, no, that was just another Tuesday at this point, but because the paper was still warm from Brenda Kessler's printer. The toner was practically sweating desperation. Imagine it's 6 a.m., you're barely awake, and the president of your HOA is sliding forged court documents under your door like some amateur Bond villain who gets their legal advice from Google and daytime TV. You know what really got me, though? The typos. The made-up case numbers. She couldn't even spell eviction right. There I am standing in my boxers, coffee cooling in my hand, reading signatures that looked like a toddler drew them with their left foot. This wasn't some criminal mastermind. This was what you get when you mix boredom entitlement and a shredder full of HOA bylaw pamphlets. But what made my blood absolutely sing with anticipation, Brenda had no clue who she was messing with. You see, to the neighborhood, my wife Sarah was just another face at the mailbox, a woman with a boring desk job downtown. Nobody realized that boring desk job involved putting away people for federal fraud. Oh, Brenda. She had no idea. So how'd we end up here? It's worth telling, start to finish. My name's Henry Rivera. 3 years ago, Sarah and I cashed out everything we had after I messed up my back working as a master electrician for 20 years. We found our little slice of heaven in Sunset Ridge outside Phoenix. Quiet, friendly, lots of retirees waving at kids playing street hockey, the smell of barbecue in the air. Honestly, it felt like we'd finally made it. For 2 years, everything was perfect. Sarah loved the anonymity. She never told anyone what she actually did. If someone asked, she'd just say, "Oh, I work at the courthouse." She'd come home from presiding over million-dollar fraud cases and just want to be Sarah from next door, not Judge Rivera. Then came Brenda, the tornado in lip gloss. She rolled in from California fresh off a divorce with a white Lexus and a chip on her shoulder. Some people find meaning in helping their neighbors or gardening. Brenda found it in enhanced community standards. Within weeks, she was president of the HOA, promising to restore property values. The way she said enhanced made you wonder if tanks would be rolling through at dawn. Her first board meeting ran 4 hours. 4. My hand cramped just listening to the poor secretary scribbling notes. Then she hit the street, heels clicking like gunfire, waving a clipboard and hunting for violations. She was a predator in pastel. But here's the thing, she didn't go after everybody. She picked 3 families. The Lucys, who'd lived here 8 years without so much as a parking ticket. The Patels, whose only crime was loving family gatherings. God forbid anyone have more than 6 cars on Thanksgiving. And us. Apparently my work truck was grounds for treason. Week 2, I find my first Brenda citation, a $75 fine for unauthorized commercial vehicle display. The paper looked so official you'd think I'd been served by the Supreme Court. I spread the HOA bylaws out on the kitchen table like I was planning an invasion. Nothing in there about trucks, not a word. So I call Brenda. Her voice drips with fake sweetness. "Mr. Rivera, the board interprets community standards as needed. Emphasis on our neighborhood. This wasn't about trucks. It was about control." Sarah finds me grumbling, sweat-soaked, muttering curses in 2 languages. What exactly did she say, she asks, and there's this sharp edge in her voice I should have noticed. But I just brush it off. She's just another power-hungry HOA president, right? What's the worst that could happen? 2 weeks later. Another citation. This time my grass is allegedly 2 3/4 inches tall. Not 2.5, the community standard, but a 1/4 inch too high. The letter is full of time-stamped photos and claims she used a calibrated measuring device. I mean, who owns a grass ruler? This woman's crawling around my yard at sunrise measuring individual blades like she's prepping for the Olympics. Luckily, I know a thing or two about inspectors. I call up Carlos from Rodriguez Landscaping. The guy's maintained half the lawns in the neighborhood for decades. He shows up with professional equipment, glances at her photos, and just laughs. "Senor Rivera," she measured during drought stress. "Your lawn's fine, she's making it up." Turns out she'd overwatered one patch just to get taller grass. That's when I start digging. Turns out state law says every HOA board election needs to be certified with the county clerk within 30 days. No paperwork on file for Brenda. Technically, she's not even legally president. She's just playing house with our lives. Sarah starts suggesting I keep records, photos, recordings, build a case, she says, like it might matter someday. Smart woman. Then Mrs. Lucy shows up worried. Brenda told her their family's cooking smells were culturally inappropriate. The Lucy's cooking was one of my favorite parts of the neighborhood. Now it's a violation. I tell her she's targeting all of us. The Hispanic family, the Asian family, the Indian family. We start comparing notes with the Patels and the Lucys. Mr. Patel brings out 6 months of records, 43 citations, 39 of them to minority families. This isn't just crazy, it's systematic, it's discrimination. But the real twist comes at the emergency board meeting Brenda calls to address aggressive behavior. The clubhouse is set up like a courtroom. Brenda's at the head of the table, perfume so strong you could taste it, waving my professional lawn measurement report around like it's radioactive. I stay calm. Years of dealing with power-hungry building inspectors have taught me that. Let them bury themselves. I hand out copies of the actual bylaws, Rodriguez's report, everything. Brenda's face turns all shades of red as the other neighbors finally start to see the truth. Mr. Lucy, bless him, finds his courage and says, "Brenda, there's nothing in here about trucks or lawns or cooking smells." The whole room goes silent. The power starts shifting. But Brenda doesn't back down. She pulls out a folder, starts ranting about illegal surveillance and frivolous complaints. At that moment, Mrs. Lucy, who's brought the cavalry, the Patels, the Gonzalez family, and half the block, calls her out. "We checked with the county clerk. Your election was never certified. You have no authority." Brenda tries to bluster her way through it, but then she makes the ultimate mistake. "Fine. I'll take this to federal court if I have to. This community has standards. I'll use every legal resource." The phrase "you people" drops into the room like a grenade. Now here's the kicker. Brenda thinks she's just threatened us with federal court. What she doesn't realize is Sarah is federal court. A few days later, certified letters show up in mailboxes across the neighborhood. Brenda is now threatening all non-compliant residents with eviction through federal legal channels. The woman's building a federal case against herself, one threatening document at a time. That's when the resistance really forms. Our backyard fills with neighbors. Maria Gonzalez tells us Brenda cited her for excessive cultural displays at her daughter's quinceañera, those papel picado banners, supposedly a violation. Mrs. Patel was fined for aromatic violations during Diwali. Mr. Kim's grandson got a warning for speaking Korean too loud in their backyard. Meanwhile, Brenda's white neighbors could do anything. Block sidewalks, kill their lawns, throw wild parties, no fines. We start passing around the real bylaws and civil rights law printouts Sarah happened to bring home. Turns out 90% of Brenda's citations are bogus. Mr. Patel, ever the accountant, drops the bomb. Brenda has collected $4,800 in illegal fines and diverted funds to a personal account. She's not just discriminating, she's embezzling. This is real federal crime. The real gut punch comes when Janet Peterson, one of Brenda's old supporters, comes forward shaking. Brenda asked her about final solutions for problematic residents. Legal action to permanently remove certain families, targeting us specifically. She's researching federal court filings, trying to find the right judge who'd support her. The irony is thick enough to spread on toast. She's planning to file in Judge Rivera's courtroom. Then Janet shows us Brenda's text. "Have identified optimal federal court strategy. Judge Rivera, in district court known for supporting property values, will file preliminary eviction papers Monday. Brenda is about to commit federal crimes against the family of a federal judge using the judge's own name." That night, Sarah's mask drops. She spreads out every piece of documentation, color-coded, organized, like she's prepping for war. "Henry, we need to discuss Brenda Kessler's federal court plans." When I joke that Brenda has no idea who Sarah really is, Sarah stops me cold. "I am Judge Rivera. For a second, the kitchen feels way too small. It's all clicking into place. Brenda is about to file forged documents in Sarah's courtroom targeting Sarah's own family. And with the random case assignment system, there's a 73% chance it lands on Sarah's desk. Sarah lays it out for me. Brenda's actions are textbook: Fair Housing Act violations, systematic harassment, illegal fine collection. But now she's stepping into criminal territory: document forgery, impersonating a federal officer, mail fraud. If she actually files those documents, she's done. The plan is simple. Document everything, wait for Brenda to commit the crimes, then hand it all to federal prosecutors. We set up cameras, gather the other families, build a Google Drive of evidence. Mr. Patel manages the spreadsheets, every neighbor records every interaction. By midweek, Janet calls. Brenda's been asking how to format federal documents for court. She wants them to look professional. She even tries to mimic Sarah's signature. It's almost comical if it wasn't so twisted. Thursday morning it happens. Brenda slides an envelope under our door. Federal District Court for the District of Arizona, blazed across the top with a case number that's just her birthday and Sarah's initials. She's forged Sarah's signature, threatened us with eviction, claimed Judge Rivera personally ordered us out for federal community standards violations. The kicker, she's sent identical forgeries to every targeted family, 12 in all. Following Sarah's coaching, I call the courthouse play The Scared Homeowner. The clerk's baffled. No such case exists, sir. And Judge Rivera hasn't issued any eviction orders. The advice: call the FBI. Brenda isn't done. That afternoon, she calls a neighborhood meeting to announce her federal court victory. She's passing out certificates, reading off names: the Riveras, the Lucys, the Patels, telling us we have 72 hours to get out. But this time, Attorney Rebecca Martinez from the U.S. Attorney's Office is in the back row, wearing a wire recording every word. As Brenda reads from her forged documents claiming Judge Rivera personally supports removing certain types of people, even her old allies start squirming. Then Brenda, proud as can be, brags about her research, how she formatted everything to exact federal court standards, and how Judge Rivera clearly understands the importance of maintaining community standards. You could almost hear the sound of her life unraveling. The next day, 2 FBI agents and Attorney Martinez show up at our door. Sarah, back from court in her black judicial robes, invites them in. She lays out Brenda's forgeries, points out the bad signatures, explains the discrimination. She used my name and position to terrorize our neighbors, Sarah says, voice like a judge pronouncing sentence. I want her arrested today. The federal agents nod. That afternoon at Brenda's compliance celebration, with the entire neighborhood watching, the FBI walks in. Brenda Kessler, you're under arrest for federal document fraud, impersonating federal officers, and civil rights violations. Brenda tries to protest, still holding her fake certificates, but then Sarah steps forward, robes and all. You forged my signature, impersonated my court, and claimed I support exactly the kind of discrimination I've spent my life fighting. Brenda collapses into a chair. For once, she's speechless. In court, Brenda pleads guilty to 14 felonies. The neighbors fill the gallery as Judge Morrison sentences her to 32 months in federal prison, 3 years supervised probation, and $127,000 in restitution. Her Lexus and house seized. The illegal fines refunded with interest. Sarah testifies as the victim of identity theft, explaining what it meant to have her authority twisted into a weapon for hate. National news picks up the story. The HOA becomes famous for all the wrong reasons. But that's not the end. Mrs. Lucy gets elected HOA president. The first order of business: create a diversity council refund every penny Brenda stole and throw open the clubhouse doors for monthly cultural nights, curry tamales, stir-fry, mariachi, Bollywood, you name it. The Brenda Kessler Memorial Scholarship gets set up for students fighting housing discrimination. My solar business booms, and Sarah writes a legal guide for homeowners that's now required reading in law schools across the country. Sometimes justice is a courtroom, a sentence, a headline. But sometimes it's just evening walks that smell like the United Nations kids playing soccer in 3 languages, and neighbors waving at you not because they're checking for violations, but because they're genuinely happy you're here. I learned something the hard way: evil isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it just wears expensive perfume and carries a clipboard. But kindness, solidarity, and a little bit of legal knowledge, they go a long, long way. So let me ask you, where do you draw the line between community standards and personal freedom? When does neighborhood harmony become an excuse for bigotry? Would you have stood up the way we did or walked away? Drop your thoughts below. Ever faced anything like this? I want to hear your stories, because real justice, the kind that actually changes lives, always starts with speaking up.